Alright, so welcome back to our base tour. We're gonna carry on and talk about the various outposts that I'm making. And you see, the first one, I guess, we'll go down a line, and this is my Homonite planet. And so Homonite requires these cation exchange beads to process. So I have it loading up till 86K, so that's including what's at the outpost, minus what's on the belt, of course. There's gonna be some room for buffer, and plus what's in the silo. And then you see there's a green signal to just launch whenever the rocket's ready and whenever the pad is empty. And whenever like enough of these rocket segments have been loaded, which is um, I believe 140. I'm keeping with the 140 no matter what my rocket reusability level is, just so that it um, doesn't ever get stuck on me over on the other end. So here's the combinator that I was showing in terms of what I want to keep at the outpost, and how I maintain the amount on the other end is just with a Roboport signal. And with the Roboport signal, it's not a great idea. There's probably a better way of filtering it, because sometimes when the Roboport requests when one of these chests requests something that's negative, and it'll generate a negative signal, and then it'll start requesting a bunch of junk in here that it's very hard to control. You see, I have all this junk here that it's okay. I mean, whatever. It's not gonna make or break anything. Um, I just keep some iron, keep some fertilizer over there, because I started using the biomethanol for power at that particular outpost. So let's take a look there. So this planet doesn't have any oil at all, or very little. I couldn't find any when I arrived here, and um, I ended up having to, I had to even import iron, just like no iron. There was some iron for me to build a bunch of pipes, and that's about it. Um, so I just decided to not place down any roadblocks and just build sort of a mess of a spaghetti. So here's another thing about playing space exploration, is that all these different maps, there's some of the maps that you only need to build a couple of things, and there's no need to really organize them in like a train grid or anything like that. Um, so let's see. So uh, there's rows and rows of biomethanol production to run on these gas generators. But at some point, once you start using modules, and which you do have to, because there is no oil, so to produce any sort of rocket fuel on site, instead of wasting a bunch of cannon capsules to shoot them over, is that you have to use this dumb ammonia for ammonia recipe, which is very slow, very inefficient. And I also use this ammonia, this rocket fuel, to produce the steam in order to make the biomethanol. So yeah, and because of the changes to the integration mod, the compatibility mod, I mean, you require a lot of these for the recipe, like a thousand ammonia and a thousand oxygen. So, and I ended up having to scale up a lot of these machines, and also electrolyzers, because you can't get hydrogen even from the atmospheric condensers anymore. And yeah, so I ended up just bringing down a ray receiver. It's kind of a, by the time you have this technology, this is way more power than you'll ever need. I mean, I also try to have this funky thing where it'll request DT fuel cells, but it'll only activate them when my power is low. And you can tell your power is low by the accumulator amount. So you just set one accumulator, link it, and then and it'll generate this A signal where you can manipulate stuff based on your accumulator charge. And It's pretty good because all your accumulators charge at the same rate, except these giant endgame accumulators. These monsters here that have like a what is it, like a 5 gigajoule of energy capacity, and those charge very slowly at a different rate. Otherwise, these ones, they like this accumulator will charge at the same rate as all these accumulators, so you just link it to one and you'll get the power that you'll get the overall accumulator charge percentage. So, like I said last time, all the new resources usually come in this special cycle of crushing, washing, smelting. Okay, wait, let's see. So it's, oh yeah, no, these are crushing, washing, powder, smelting. And well, the powder part is a bit different, but usually like a crushing, washing, smelting, and then compression cycle. So and Trex did this new compatibility thing where washing the homonite creates these dirty homium water, or you have a choice of whether you filter out more homonite or you filter out more um, iridite from this water, and I'll show you the two recipes. And I mean, I'm doing all the processing on site, so I'm not changing anything here. Let's see. Ah, yes, here. So the dirty, okay, yeah, these two recipes uses the same water, but you have a choice of whether you get back crushed homonite or crushed iridite. And the recipe does require these beads to run, and it's a simple little filtration plant setup like I have here. Mm, mm. Yeah, so it comes down, and then of course and then the powder recipe is one where with the byproduct, and also you get back some of the stuff that you put in. So you have to have a splitter and have it rotate back in, where then where you use the beads and also the crushed homonite from the initial part of the cycle and have it go back into the circulation, where there's going to be some of the powder product that can finally come down. Of course, you filter up the sand, and I just have the sand going into landfills here. The sand actually from this gets a bit, uh, it builds up a bit, so I have to do these landfills, and even that's starting to fill up. Later on, I could put down like one of those matter plants so that you can turn the sand into matter so that you can get something back from it. It's not a very efficient recipe anyway, so it's one way or another. It's a byproduct that you're gonna end up having a bit extra of. And then they just go into these smelters to smelt into an ingot, and then the ingot becomes the plate. Only the plate gets used in further processing, so I just load the plate back to novice into this into the rocket here. And I have a signal also so that the rocket flies away either when it's full or when we run out of these beads in these warehouses. So I have it send a green signal so that it leaves anyways when these run out. So let's go back to novice and we'll look at the next one. I'm gonna circle back to beryllium later on, just because beryllium's a little bit different. And let's look at iridium. So iridium, you need both vulcanite blocks and these anion exchange beads to produce, so I have it loading into this silo. And let's go to the planet Hatter. And this planet does have oil, so I have a bit of oil just going into regular basic power plants and just oil processing. When you arrive at a planet to make a new outpost, you usually look at whether it can sustain a solar level. This planet has very weak solar. Let's see, solar's only 66%. It's not terrible, but I think I just came down with a bunch of these wind turbines. It's not that they're really crappy, but when you have a bunch of these, that can get you kickstarted in terms of at least producing some oil from these pumps. And there's quite a bit of oil on this planet, so that's good. And I have it. I have the oil to use for some spare power. The oil allows me to use transport drones. And also I have the biomethanol plants producing here as well. So these gas plants, it seems to be okay. And then mining iridite requires sulfuric acid, so you also need oil anyways. You need to produce the sulfur and sulfuric acid. I just produced them on site. There's some iron, which allows me to do that. And for my outpost, I usually like to keep some repair packs. In terms of that combinator, I keep some repair packs and I keep some of those meteor defense ammos. I think I way over stored them down here, so this will probably last the rest of the game. I messed something up the combinators beforehand, and then so yeah, it allows me to produce the rocket fuel on site. It's not great, but it works. Um, and yeah, I just have uh, the rocket landing. It'll filter out the segments and the capsule back into the silo. The landing pad will also put out. So for all my outposts, also, I don't know if you noticed before that I would have one of these active provider warehouses where I anything else goes into here and just goes into the storage, and then whatever I want to, I have it sorted out. So I want to keep these two items because they're used in the production chains. So I just have them stored in these provider boxes. And then these two road network readers allows me to control how much of it I'm loading from back on Novice. There's some of these fluid isotherm generators. Before Trex did the rocket fuel changes, it made sense to make use of them. They rocket fuel unfortunately takes it's way too hard to make to actually use these now. So I just left them here just in case I get a power outage and I am desperate to link them up. I'll use them. Oh, and then the other thing about iridite is that what's considered a hard material. So you need to use either a big mining drill, or you use these Mark III drills. Uh, the regular drills or the Mark II drills will not work. And but I think mining drones still will, which is a bit of a cheat. But I don't use them here. I do use mining drones back on Novice, but I don't use them here. It's good with these because you can put a bit of a productivity module on them anyway. So yeah. Uh, so I have it just mining into these boxes. Then the trucks go and take them into. So it's a crushing cycle, and then it goes into a washing cycle. Nothing special about this one, just gets washed and produces the washed iridite and then the dirty water, which you have to filter out for some rocks and more some more iridite to go back into the cycle. Let's see here. And then the crushed also gets produced into powder, and this one, it's the same kind of cycle as the Homonite, where it requires takes in the beads, and you get some of the beads back. You also get some of the original product back that you have to circle back up top, and then you have to filter out the sand. The sand here, I do use them for these greenhouses, so uh, they're actually not put to waste. I think any excess probably just gets made into landfill here. Again, any stone in landfill, if you want to later on, you can just either bring down like one of those singularity reactors and just turn them into matter and use as extra electricity, or you can form them into matter and make basically whatever you're lacking on these outposts. Crestorio 2 is pretty good that way. So then you have the powder, and yet another annoying intermediate that you have to use to produce the iridium ingots is some vulcanite blocks. And then the ingots get compressed into plates, and then finally it goes into the final product. And then loads back up here, and off it goes back home. Alright, so let's go back home. And we'll look at the next one, which is beryllium. So let's go to the planet, which is Aquila. Aquila is a tiny little moon, and I'm starting to run into issues where there was oil at the beginning, but a lot of it is starting to get mined out now, and like there's only about a little bit, like 2.5 mil, a mil left here. I am and then I think this one had decent solar when I came down, so I brought some solar panels, and that kickstarted the whole project. There's iron here. These are the mining depots. I don't know if I showed them off earlier on. There's iron. I don't know why I bothered mining copper, but I did. I made some copper. I don't think I actually used them on site here. And there is oil, so I just actually use oil to power on this planet. It's just straight up light oil in solid fuel into these basic boilers and steam engines, and a few of these AAI burner turbine generators. I think I added in some uh, solar panels later on. These are the end game solar panels. These are very good. So let's see. So there's quite a few rows of power, and then my rocket fuel production is here. Since there is light oil, I just produced them. And again, I used to have these generators here just to burn off any extra rocket fuel that I don't need, but it doesn't make sense to burn them anymore. Rocket fuel is very precious now. And I have this cute little ship that transports in the beryllium from the asteroid belt. I mean, there's quite a bit of beryllium on site here too, but just in case it runs out, and I just wanted another source, and I did it just because I can. I mean, you saw how rich that field was, and of course, like yeah, the rocket fuel can go back can also be used to power the ship. And I'll go into my ship designs later on and what you need when you're building spaceships. So beryllium gets mined. Beryllium is just a basic mine. I think I actually just use the mining drones for them. Doesn't require anything special to mine them. So I just use the mining drones. They get mined, um, and then they go into a crushing, and then it goes into washing cycle. Washing cycle produces some sand as a byproduct. In this case, I used to turn the sand into landfill, but because of how low my oil is on this planet, I actually have some matter convert. These are end game stuff that I brought in after the oil runs out, and I have to convert it into the matter. And also I mined there's a big stone field here, right? So then it's not that big of a field. It's just really spread out. That's kind of dumb. But anyways, yeah, I mined this big stone field. Is it really just 1 million? That's a very, like, that's a very, any case, yeah, so I mine it and it goes into the matter plant, and I just have it linked all the way over here. There's a matter assembler that just pumps it um, into the, back into oil. And so let's see, and then the next one is a weird one for beryllium, where it needs to get converted into a liquid. So it takes cryonite rods, and it goes into this thing called beryllium hydroxide, which is not used in any other formulas. I'm surprised that they added this intermediate. And then the beryllium hydroxide gets just plainly made into powder, plus there's water as a byproduct, so you have to have a tank where you don't fill too much water so that it doesn't jam up. And I also have these flare stacks to just burn off any extra water so that the whole process doesn't jam. And then powder gets melted into ingots. Ingots gets compressed, gets made into plates just via regular assembler, and off they go. So I actually didn't know this when I started playing, but beryllium, holmium, and iridium are actually real elements that exist on Earth. And the way that they're used in this game is actually the same. Holmium is a very sturdy, heavy material, so they're used for heavy productions. Beryllium is a light material, so there's a lot of aerospace applications for it. And then holmium is a very conductive material, so you can make more advanced wiring with them. And then and then the one more resource that's introduced from uh, space exploration is this green stuff called Vitamalang. Vitamalang is kind of I'm sure Vitamalang does not actually exist. It's basically like a biomatter of sorts, and yeah, so that planet initially didn't really annoy me, but it really annoyed me later on. So let's just go there and see. You don't need anything to mine them specifically. Let's go to Buttercup. And what you can see is that Buttercup has a very low hostility. Well, it's up to 17% now, but earlier on it didn't. It started off with very low hostility, but uh, somewhere in the development they added in a feature where when these meteors come down, if they're not shot, on Vitamalang planets, they have a chance of spawning biters. And believe me, they're very annoying. Um, so I lived peacefully on here for quite a while before I ended up having to bring down all sorts of different defenses that some effective, some were not effective. And so I brought in these mines. And the annoying thing with the meteors, when they land on top of your buildings, you don't get your ghost back. You don't. They totally take over the area that they land, and I don't know if it's because they generate creep from Crastorio 2. They don't generate creep anymore now on planets that's not novice. They've also updated that in between the compatibility updates, and so when they come down, still they seem to not give you back the ghost, so you might have to remember what it actually took out when it comes down. So at the beginning, I came down with just some solar panels and decided to just use the petroleum gas as in these gas generators for power. Um, that ended up being not enough, of course, with having to constantly deal with biters. So instead, I started using these Krastorio 2 laser artillery turrets, which are insanely overpowered, to say the least. But then that means I had to bring down a energy beam receiver so that I can get huge amounts of power, so that I can just use these. Because otherwise, even if you bring down even if you have Spidertrons and you can have these laser turrets around, unless you wall off your place like you do on Novice, it's very annoying, to say the least. Um, so the vitamin Lang, the processing of it is actually a lot more complicated. So all the intermediates involving my vitamin Lang I actually just do on Novice. The only thing that I do on site here is the crushing cycle. And then, so instead of vitamin Lang, it gets crushed in the pulverizer into the vitamin Lang nugget. And for rocket fuel production, I have all these buildings here. I have tons of these ammonia production. I found a stone mine and I just start mining stone and using the sand cycle, which is terrible. Uh, don't do this if you actually need to use your sand for other things. But since I'm on an outpost planet, there's no use for the sand here. I can just use the sand and convert and use the hydrochloride formula, but this is an absolutely terrible formula. And even then, it's barely enough. Just because, in order to really increase the throughput, I have to use 3 rockets, or the throughput is not enough. And even with 3 rockets, the throughput is not enough. And I'll show you this. I would call it interesting. I would show you this train on a ship system much later on. I at some point became obsessed with the system, and I managed to set it up. I don't think it's as efficient as it really really should be, but it's quite cute. I'll go through it much later on. And then let's go back home one last time. And the final thing that this is not from space exploration. This is from Krastorio 2. And Krastorio 2 has these things called Immersite, which represents a high-tech crystal. It's a high-tech crystalline material anyways. And it occurs on, I believe, this moon. So this moon it's actually not a Immersite primary moon. It's a oil. It was, anyways, a crude oil primary. When Trex rolled out the final version of the compatibility update, it changed a lot of the worlds and it reassigned them. And this became a Vitamin Lang world. And with it being a Vitamin Lang world, um, it had the annoying thing of the biter meteors, and I actually almost lost my entire base. But I managed to come down and save it. So now I shot a plague rocket to it. So now it's a plague world. There are no trees. There's no biters can stay here. All the vitamin line just disappear the instant you shoot a plague rocket into it. Um, and when you come down here, it's as if you're in space. You can't come down here in your normal in your normal armor. You have to come power. What are the armors? Let's see. So these are the regular power armor, and these are spacesuits. You have to come down in your spacesuits, and it'll take up your life support. And so let's see here. Initially, I just had this was very small initially. Uh, there were quite a few of these caves here that's mined out now. I'll show you what Immersive Caves, what we're looking for. Actually, I think oh, here's one. So this is what the Immersive Cave looks like. It's very pretty. The art style of both Crastorial 2 and Space Exploration still amazes me to this day. And when you mine them, you get these very pretty crystals. Again, very, very pretty colors. And they just get crushed into the immersite powder, and this produces a tremendous amount of sand, which I have before I made it into landfill. At some point, it became obvious that I can't just power this base using the petroleum gas. Just because I put in a bunch of modules into these crushers, the productivity modules, and also I wanted to add in mining. And once you do that, what's first or even second generation power options just do not do anything. So I brought in this completely endgame generator, singularity reactor, and I just take advantage of whatever junk resource I can find. There's these mineral water. I use mineral water at home producing lithium, but there's no use for them here. But there's a couple of deposits down here, so I just take advantage of them and make them into and make them into these matter fuel. And this is way more power than we'll ever need. Like, I try setting up extra rows of power from these steam generators. Nothing is enough. And yeah, this is a very simple one. It just gets crushed and off it goes back home. Okay, let's go back home one more time. I will show you one more thing that I built after the compatibility update, but I'll consider it not the next level of gaming, but instead an outpost planet. So I mentioned time and time again how difficult it is to actually produce the solid rocket fuel, because of the difficulties with pumping in the oxygen, the 1,000 oxygen through each of these machines. So the answer for that is a completely separate oil moon outpost where I burn off any extra. Takes a bit of balancing, but all you do is you need rows of oil processing, and then also just crack any extra and any heavy oil into light oil, and you burn off the petroleum gas for power. You need a little bit of extra solar power in order to um, just so that you don't you need a little bit of solar power so that your petroleum doesn't build up like this. It's backed up right now, but it's okay. I'm producing more than enough. Um, Once in a while, I mean, I do have to come and tweak how much solar I have, and I just want to I have to make sure that it's actually using these petroleum gas. So what happens is that all this light oil, I mean, there's plenty of light oil anyways. So you see what these are. These are um, the Crastorial 2. They're not from Crastorial 2, but they're made and maintained by the same person. Fluid must flow ducts, and they have insane throughput. And this is my answer. I have rows and rows of these, and these ducts pump the oxygen into these machines. So these oxygen things, I mean, I think some of them are backing up, but whatever, what can you do? So yeah, like quite a few of these machines are constantly working. It's making tons and tons of these. It's amazing. And then I just fly them back to the home planet. I think that's all we have for time for tonight. Um, I guess the next part I will start showing off what you can do after you after you set up these outposts so that you have these resources coming in to your home planet, and then you can start making the next level of space technologies. Thank you. Have a good day. Try to drop a like if you like what I make. I know my video making skills are probably not that great yet. Thanks. Bye.